Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 175 of Kouryer Podcast. And yes, we're only about 24, 25 episodes away from episode 200. And as I mentioned in a couple of episodes before, there's going to be some special stuff ready for the people who've been following the podcast. There's going to be group discussion podcasts. As mentioned before, there's going to be a lot of, interesting, fun stuff, for anyone who's interested in, the art and creative fields as well. And with that being said, our today's guest is Mr. Darko Markovic, also known as Darmar. He's a digital artist and designer from Belgrade, Serbia. And of course, before we get into the signature questions that I ask everyone usually, let me quickly mention that in the for contact section of the captions, you can go and check it. You can see his and also find his Instagram ID. So you can follow him or check out more of his stuff. He's the link to his art station for more in-depth, stuff and word process and all that. His Twitter handle and also website, and you guessed it. No, you didn't guess it. Why did I say that? That was kind of dumb. Sorry. The link to his podcast. Yeah, I know. It's a podcast in a podcast. It's kind of meta. It's super meta right now, right? So if you're interested in more art podcasts, and if you're sick of my face, you can go check out his podcast as well. He has some really pretty interesting, people on his podcast as well. And if you're into 3D and just hard surface, or not necessarily 3D or hard surface, just in general art goodness, let me just put it that way, go check out the link in the captions as well. And well, with all that introduction out of the way, let's quickly, but no, not quickly, let me ask you something first. How are we doing today?
Hi, Ramtin. How are you? Thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast, and I hope that the guests will like this podcast because I talk a lot and I've been around the internet the last couple of years a lot, so we will see how this will go also. Are they getting tired of me or no?
No, I don't think so. But all right, let's jump into the first question that I usually ask everyone, which is kind of like the signature question of the podcast at this point, which is give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. Basically, tell us the story of, what happened that made you realize that, oh, I want to become an artist and just work on art and design and all of that, craziness, for the rest of my life,
Well, man, I wish it was a short story, but it's a bit longer, so I will take a little bit longer time.
We love long stories. Please,
yeah, it's longer, but it's quite interesting story. I love to tell it, even though I bother people with it a lot because I never considered that I have a talent. And as a matter of fact, the institutions told me I don't have a talent. To cut the story short, when I was 19 years old, I was finishing Belgrade Gymnasium. And gymnasium here is, you can be anything after it, so you're not specifically. And I wasn't drawing, I was playing video games professionally. And I was always a creative child. I love sports, I love the creative stuff, but drawing wasn't my thing. And I was drawing stickmen till age of 19. So I always say this because there is hope for everybody out there because people always come, oh my God, I didn't draw when I was young. Neither did Darmar draw, trust me on that. And then I wanted to enroll in architecture in Belgrade University because my father never wanted me to be an artist. He's a mechanical engineer and he really hated it. But he said, go to architecture because you have mathematics, physics, but also drawing. And I said, okay, of course, Dad, I will go to architecture because it was the only way to do it. And I tried to enroll and I didn't have enough points and I was rejected by University of Architecture because here you prepare for 1 year. And it's very important in this story because I tell to students now when I teach in India, in USA and stuff like that, I've been professor about that. The thing with I also applied later for art, industrial design. I was rejected horribly. And I was told by professor there that I don't have talent. And when you hear that when you're 19 years old, it doesn't sound good. You cry and stuff like that. And but then my father and mother played a big role there because they didn't want to let me stay on the streets and to pause the year and stay on the streets because I grew up in a rough neighborhood in Belgrade. And they didn't think that it was smart with my spirit and everything to stay on the streets. So they enrolled me into a private university for industrial design that opened here. So to cut the story short, private universities in Serbia are not like private universities in the rest of the world where you go and get the best professor and stuff. Here you pay, so you get a diploma. So it's not the best option. But man, I was so pissed and furious that they rejected me, that I worked day and night, and I fell in love in the design. Man, I wanted to be a car designer. My father works with cars and trucks, and I always wanted to design them. And then I started drawing. I sucked till third year. I was the best, most awarded student in East Europe for industrial design. And then in fourth year, I got Lamborghini scholarship. First time ever from Balkan that somebody gets Lamborghini scholarship, doesn't pay. And I went to Milan. But man, then the economic crisis started. And when I finished, I was kicked back home because of the passport, and I couldn't work in the industry. And I was like, go home. So that's what happens when you come from a third world country that passport doesn't allow you. You're not eligible to work in USA or on EU. And man, it was such a disaster in my head because you put so much effort into something and you're really good at it. They are telling you you are good, and you develop from drawing stickmans to something really good, and then eventually you are rejected because of a piece of paper. But then 1.5 years later, I was the only Serbian person that studied that kind of universities to go to work illegally in Italy. I'm not going to mention the companies, but I worked illegally there because I didn't have any other option. There was no other option for me. And then I was lied for 1 year where they didn't give me papers. And then I got back to Serbia 2015, and I got really sick, depressed. And then life started to move me in a different direction. I was never supposed to be a car designer. Why? Because car design is very strict. You move one line for months, and I had so much creative juices in me flowing. I could do anything, architecture, design, and so on. And now I'm going to come back to the drawing thing. You know, when you apply to the universities, they also check how you draw. But there is so much underneath it. And nobody could see what I had in my head, because you can't see that in 1 hour, how the person thinks or what is my work ethic. You just see how I draw. And I think it's a big mistake of our universities to accept students by just drawings, because I tell you, drawing can be taught. Anybody can learn to draw, but not everybody can learn to make new ideas and to think. And I had both of those in me. I could create new ideas in a second. I understood mechanisms. I'm just bored like that. And I moved to concept art. It was the best thing I did ever, because my career started moving like this, literally. I won ArtStation Challenge that year, CG Talk Challenge that year. My name started to pop up everywhere, Darmar. I started to build a brand. I invested a lot of energy, and I started my personal project Inside 44. And technically, that's how I got to the industry eventually, by a lot of rejection, a lot of people telling me I suck. And it was the best thing that happened to me, because here we are, 2022, clients like Sony, like Outcast Games, Coldplay Band, and my personal book Inside 44 that you can see behind me speak lengths instead of me speaking, even though it was a long introduction and everything, but they tell more words than I can ever tell.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I like, one of the reasons that I really enjoy doing the podcast is hearing other people's stories, and especially these, like, their come ups, like, the struggles and the journeys they had to go through, to where they are right now. Because I mean, of course, we all heard this, like, cliche. Oh, since I was a baby, I remember I used to draw all the time, and then when I grew up, I went to art school. Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I have nothing against those people, but the thing that's kind of like, is really interesting to me is that those stories that, for example, do you hear of people who, for example, start something at like 28 or 30 or 50 or something, and like, that's, I think, really important for people to hear, because especially, in younger generations, that's like, but by the way, I don't think that's going to change ever. Like, it's like something common amongst like young people that, for example, they enroll in college, they don't like what they're studying, and they're like, oh my god, I've been 1.5 years in it. If I cancel now, I'll be gone and I'll be behind. But they don't know that if they actually cancel and drop out and just start their journey, then it's gonna, they will get to where they want to be much faster and just better. And it's kind of like, dumb to think like that. And for example, when I hear stories like yours, I mean, it's kind of like, this is the type of stories that people should hear more. I mean, that's filled with challenges and disappointments, and but you still find your way, And I guess it kind of had a little bit of similarities to my journey as well, because I also, when, like, I've always been and again, I mean, a lot of people have heard these stories, but in a short version of it is because I also, loved art and just, making designs and stuff, and it's just like you. But the thing is that, like, it's because of the environment in general, in where I lived and grew up, art was never considered an option, And so the only two things that were in front of me was, like, biology or mathematics and engineering. Then I first went to biology. I was like, like, I like genetics and stuff like that, which I did. I mean, I'm not lying, but then a couple of like a year fast forward, I realized that I got introduced when I was, I think, 15, 16. I found the works of Nikola Tesla, different engineers, and, like, there were, like, other designers that I really found, like, through TED Talks, that I really liked their work. I was like, wait, this is way more fun. What am I doing? Then I switched to maths, and I was like, all right, I'm going to become a mechanical engineer. Then after that, I can make these cool spaceships and design. But no one told me that, Ramtin, you idiot, you like the design part, you don't like the hard stuff. Just don't be dumb. Just go to art. No one told me that, and no one saw that in me. I had to, like, it was a rigorous, hard, like, process for me to actually find what I want to do with life. Because, I mean, I don't want to, like, make excuses, but I guess environment does really have an impact, because when you mention art, people don't take it seriously. And not just that, they're like, all right, have art as a hobby, but go engineering on your side. You can always have art as your hobby, right? Do that, because they don't take it seriously. They don't think it could be something big. And yeah, then I went to mechanical engineering. Then a year after, I dropped out again, because I was like, I don't like this at all. This wasn't. And here's the weird thing. There was like 140, 50 something people from the entry of mechanical engineering the same year as me. And I actually got the highest score in industrial drawing, the subject. And I dropped out of math once. So, if any sane person will see that, they're like, all right, you have an eye and, like, a thing for drawing. You like drawing. You don't like math. Maybe you should go for art or design or something, And at this point, I still didn't know. So I went to computer science. And I was like, okay, I can at least employ my design stuff in video games and web design and all stuff, right? I mean, I still love game development and stuff like that, don't get me wrong. And that's kind of one of my dreams is still. And that's what my, trajectory of art is gearing towards. But it's still, in the end, when you go there, you realize that, maybe 5% of it, at most, is you get to design and stuff. And most of it is just coding and doing, like, hard labor, back end stuff. You're like, oh, God. But I mean, my life is a bit complicated, but fast forward, I dropped out again. So I started, like, start self-studying a lot, actually. And I started drawing. Then after that, I started trying everything as much as I can, because I wanted to, get to know what my real passion is. And here's a weird thing, that I don't like passion, because passion is also something that's developed. It's not something you're born with, because that's what most people, like, think. Oh, if I don't love something automatically, that means that's not my passion. That I also want to mention that as well.
Well,
yes.
Yeah. No. Sorry, I interrupted you. Please continue.
No, sorry.
I just wanted to say about passion. It's you can develop passion by just seeing something. It's like seeing a beautiful woman, but that doesn't mean that the passion will develop instantaneously with her.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, people live in some delusions. Like the passion is like you wake up happy, everything is amazing, and you have your passion and drive. And that's happening because of motivational speakers that we have today and the generations that are brainwashed, like I was, and I'm probably still. But it's not like that, man. It's just when it's hard, that's when you find your passion. I did my art when I couldn't move my hands, and when I moved to my parents, I still did art. Yeah, of course, the environment has a huge impact, but I will tell you like this. My environment made a lot of fun of me. And always they made a fun. But they got quieter and quieter the more successes I had on the international level. Because nothing can stop the international quality and stuff like that in their minds. So they could make funs. Here is a car designer. They were super happy when I failed. But now, for example, I got a call from F1 driver. I posted on Instagram to design for him. And for me, that's a huge privilege because my father is a huge fan of F1. And can you imagine me getting a call to design something for F1 driver? And they get quieter and quieter the more successes you make. And then eventually they just start gossiping around you. They're not even telling you anything. They're talking behind your back. And I think that one of the biggest qualities I have for myself, and I truly mean that now when I'm in 30s and when I can see that, I couldn't see that when I was young, is that I never gossiped about people, and I never envied them. I never, even when I was on my lowest, for example, I will tell you, these stories happen in Turkey, in Serbia, in countries like that. I know they happen. When the artists gather, you can see also on the festivals, yeah, he's from USA, that's why he has a career. If I was in USA, I would have a career. Man, you are not in USA. You are where you are. You have talents that you have. Start improving them. Stop crying. Stop bitching. Stop saying. And I always say it like that. And people dislike when I tell them that because that's a harsh reality. I talk with myself like that. You got what you decided to get because soul decides where to get born. It's not that we randomly fly and fall. The pigeon, not pigeon. Sorry. What's the name of the bird? The bird that carries the babies.
Oh yeah, I know. I forgot the name in English.
Roda in Serbian. Roda. Yeah. It's not that accidentally the soul chooses where to get born, so it can pass through the mysteries of life and solve the things that didn't seal in the finish in previous life. So you are born where you are born for that reason, and anything can be overcome. Anything is possible. I truly believe in that, and I know by my example that anything is possible. You just need to work hard and smart, not just hard. Because I see a lot of artists, man, working hard in this industry, and they are drawing the same drawing for 3 years. Same proportion, same everything. They are not getting out of comfort zone, and then they're crying why their art is not improving. Man, stop cutting corners. Stop cutting corners. Go where you need to go. So that's my 2 cents. I apologize for interrupting.
No worries at all. Like, actually, just to segue on that, like, because I'm personally, as I said before, to you in our chats, like, I'm from Iran. I'm not from Turkey. And the thing is, Iran compared to Turkey is not a very internationally friendly place, and you don't get much opportunities to work in the stuff, or even like, all right, here's the thing, like, even most of the softwares are either sanctioned and we can download it, or even if it's not sanctioned, because of our economy, we can never buy it because the prices are not economically translated. Like, for example, when you go on Steam, most games are translated into the economy of a certain area. And by the way, fun enough, Steam is even sanctioned in Iran. But the thing is, we pirate them. We find ways. And I know I brought a lot of them on my podcast, a lot of Iranian artists that work internationally on highest levels imaginable, and they make a lot of money, more than even some of the artists in the US. It's as you said, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, quality matters.
Always, but you need to reach the quality.
Of course,
you always need to because art is not just drawing. I know many kids that can draw, not on my level, to be honest, now, because it evolved in 15 years of drawing every day and analyzing and being out of comfort zone. But artists always like 2 things: marketing and money thing. They always like that. And then you sit on the festival with 50 artists that are complaining how their career is not developing. Nobody wants to do money thing, economy. Nobody wants to do legal stuff. Nobody wants to do marketing. Well, then sit and cry. Because these 3 things you need, if you want a solo career, you need them. And it's just like that. You can pretend that they don't exist, and you can say, if I was in USA, I would have an agent. Trust me, you won't. No, you wouldn't. Trust me, because it's a harsh reality, man. I had to talk with myself like that, and it's all about what you want. How much you invest is how much you get back. I will tell this story because I think it's a perfect moment to tell it. Because I didn't have opportunities here, same as Iran. There is no industry, there is nothing when it comes to design and stuff like that, and especially the design that I do. There is a bunch of us. And on one hand, literally. And because my friends, they knew what I did. And then, of course, they have a cousin that would like to do the same. He, she, never mind. And they would send them to me. And part of me always feels bad because I know how it was for me. There was nobody to help me at anything, to show me where to go. I need to figure out everything by myself. And then literally, I know everything. I know the game inside out now. And they send me people that they want to be artists. I had 7 of them in last 5 years. Over last 3 years, actually, 7 of them. Man, they would always complain how other artists have it better. If my uncle was this, if that, and they're just talking about this and that and blah, 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 blah. And then they come to me and I put them in machine. And I design a specifically course for them where they, for free, man, by the way. Remember, it's for free. I'm not doing that anymore. I need to tell that immediately because I know I will get million emails to do it again. But I do it and I optimize it for them. They tell me what are their dreams, where they want to move their design. And I optimize it for 35% of my working force. 35%. And I want to push them to 55% of how hard I work. And then we start working. Man, in a matter of days, they start to lie. They start to manipulate. They tell me they did something longer that they didn't. And I know how long they worked. They lied that they worked on it when they didn't. They deceive themselves. They are late with deliveries. And then I just tell them goodbye. And then I become, of course, number one enemy. I'm number one enemy there. And then all of a sudden, they're not talking anymore about the other artists, but I'm the problem. And what I'm trying to tell you, the circle just continues. It just moves to other person. So it moves from the American artist to me. And I will just say it. If you worked on my level, 100% how much I've been given last 7 years, everybody would be a successful artist. And I'm not joking when I say that. I invest so much energy. They can't handle 35%. So it's a simple calculation. It's a simple calculation how much you want to give, how much you want to invest. But it's the mentality, man. It's the mentality. And there is always somebody else to blame. Man, I was invited to ZBrush Challenge. And I posted that on my Facebook 2018. They invited me, top artist, to compete. And I get rejected for visa. I can't go to LA. Man, my heart again broke after everything that happened. It broke again. But that's life. That's life. I just continued working. And soon I was becoming a professor on university in USA online. So there is always something else that's behind there. There is always something else that will happen. And it's just life. Life connects the dots if you go for that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's actually such a good, like a lot of interesting points could be made out of, what you said about this last, story, which is, I also see it a lot in like, Iranian art communities, which I'm kind of involved with, that there are people who like try to, I don't know. I think it's the human thing. It's everywhere. They try to like, befriend people who have like a lot of mutuals and expand their network like that. Or I see, like, here's what I'm trying to say. I having a hard word trying to explain. Like I use consensus really discussing toxic positivity in some people. That is obvious that it's just for trying to connect, and get networking and all that stuff. And that's their way of like trying to expand their art. Like there are artists with like 2K followers with just like it's kind of weird to even measure it like that. But basically they're after clout. That's the wrong thing they're doing. And yeah, I mean, as you said, I think some of your students that you mentioned, I think they were on the same mentality as well. They just wanted to go for the cloud thing. They were like jealous of like other artists and stuff like that. They weren't really doing art and design for the love of it. Because here's the thing: if someone's doing something for the love of it, you'd know.
Man, I will tell you one story. I will tell you one more story about that kind of stuff.
Please.
I love to tell that stories because they are very beneficial for people to learn from them, and for me also to learn from them. 2015, I had no money, and a Swedish company calls me. The guy wants to open an industrial design in Serbia, and he says, gather a team, 4 people. We're going to send you first projects for 6 months. You have projects to do. For 4 months, you have projects to do. And gather a team. And I had people that I knew that were every day talking. If they got a chance, they would make amazing stuff. There is no industrial design here. If there was industrial design, they would demolish it. So I call 4 of them. And we start working. To cut the story short, they got paid in advance for 4 months. After 40 days, they stopped coming to work. And because I signed the papers, I was very inexperienced. It was 8 years ago, and I had to finish all the designs by myself and to return some of the money. So eventually, everything that I earned, I had to return. Fast forward, if you meet that people in the city still, they're still saying the same story. If we got a chance on industrial design, we would do amazing. But there is no industrial design in Serbia. Americans, they have industrial design. The rest of the world does. We don't. They still say the same story after everything that they did. So it's a mindset, man. You can't change a mindset unless it wants to change. So you have, what I'm trying to say, life is very simple. If you don't have money, it's because you're not doing something good. If you don't have art career, it's because you are not doing something good. It's always you. It's not the system, it's not the life, it's not the world, it's not this. I went through some very hard phases in my life of like returning to live with my parents at the age of 27, working in my room where I grew up for 3 years on a laptop that was 10 years old, which was heating up and stuff like that. Man, but I loved doing it. I loved doing that. I loved designing. I loved working. And I was aware that I don't have any other opportunity. I don't have a Wacom tablet, really good one. I don't have a best monitor. My friends have it. They have rich parents. They have this. I don't have it. It's me. So I work with I get. If I had a fucking rock, I would work with a rock, I swear. So until I get to the Wacom. So the question was always what I need. I need better monitors, I need better chair, I need this, I need that. Eventually, if you see my setup now, and you can't see it, I have 3 monitors, I have Wacom Cintiq, I have Herman Miller chair and stuff like that. Man, I didn't have anything of that. I sat on a wood chair. Like my back was hurting me most of the time. I had to do yoga 2 times a day, so I fixed my back. So point of the story is I didn't have anything of that. But if you love the game when you don't have anything, you will love it even more when you get stuff. And my parents taught me that. They never wanted to buy me best shoes for running, best this. If you love it with the worst equipment. And I loved it with the worst equipment. I loved it. So if that's passion for me. That's a passion for me. I have also cousins that complain, oh, if I had a monitor like you. Okay, whatever. What if you saw on what I was working like 7 years ago, you would never say that, man, my screen was this big 7 years ago with overheating a notebook. And the people are just looking for excuses why they can't do it. No excuses. We go all in. If you are not running today because there is snow outside, some other guy is running because there is no snow outside on the other part of the world. So no excuses, man. No excuses.
Yeah, and that's actually such a good way to put it actually about passion, like doing something with. I wholeheartally believe in that as well, like some people, for example, when they would want to go to the gym. I remember, because when I was 14, that was the year that I started to actually in my fitness journey. And for example, it was, and here's the thing, I was a really simple kid. Like I was a really simple creature, I was kind of pure at heart. So for example, I had no concept of because I guess at the time my brain wasn't that mature enough so it could understand mental exhaustion or stuff like that. But for example, if there was huge hail and thunder and rain outside, I would still just normally like it was any other day go to the gym. And it wasn't because I was disciplined or anything. I wasn't. And here's the thing, it just was because it was fun for me.
Yeah.
I was passionate. It was literally fun for me. I would do it even here's the thing. Our house was near a mountain, the Darko mountain in our hometown Shiraz. And I swear I would get empty rice bags from my mom's pantry, and I would go to the mountain and fill it with I swear with dirt and little rocks to have
That's great. That's great. That's
some
great.
sort of weights. When you love something, you find a way. I'm not kidding. Right now here, I don't want to go get up and shoot, but I have a 10-liter bottle of water. I bought it just to use it as a weight because I live in a small flat. I don't have the commute to gym is kind of difficult here, so it wouldn't make sense for me. So I just at least can do that. At least I can do yoga. If you love something, you find a way.
Man, being proud is one of the dumbest things in the life. I have friends that didn't want to play football if we didn't have a perfectly round ball.
Oh,
Can you imagine that? Like, and that I think that was the moment when I realized how much I love doing some stuff when I didn't give a fuck if the ball.
yeah.
But the point is to get to the round ball. That was listen. When I was very young, I was very 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 connected to my father. I'm sorry that we are not talking about art, but this is all connected.
No, this is
I,
way better than honestly.
I was connected to my grandfather, and you wouldn't believe what kind of levels. He was my soulmate, and he passed away in 2015 when I was at my worst. And he looked exactly like me. If I look at the young photos, except he had blue eyes. He was much better looking, to be honest, with blue eyes. And I wish I had, but I got from my mother lineage, the brown ones. And why am I telling you that story? Well, that man didn't speak a lot, but we just clicked. We just clicked. There was a huge connection between him and me. And man, I was a kid. I was 4 years old or something like that. And when you're a kid, you want to play with older guys, football and stuff like that. I'm highly competitive, by the way. I got it that from my father, from him. We are like that. And man, I wanted the big ball, and I want a ball. I want a ball. I want to play with it. I think it was some Euro Cup was. I don't remember the exact year, but I remember football was huge. You know, when the cup starts, all the children play football. Then Serbians love sports. By the way, we do it all the time. We are athletic like that. And I wanted the big ball, and I remember he brings a fucking small ball. And it was something very cheap. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know, I want to have a real ball. Everybody of my friends has a fucking real ball. Why am I getting a small ball? And he gave me a best lesson back then. And I keep it very dearly to my heart. And he says, Darko, if you can kick a small ball and control it, you will be able to control a bigger one much better. And that's how my life progressed, really. At one point, the ball was literally invisible. With my career and my life, literally 2015-16. But I remember he passed away. And I remember that when he passed away. Man, I kicked the shit out of that small ball. I kicked the shit. Eventually, different problems arose in 2018-19 when the ball started to become really big. Nobody explained me that the ball can become really big, so it was too heavy to carry it. But man, because of him, my career, many people deserve, my parents, my grandparents, and so on, for my career. And the lessons I learned, I can talk forever who deserves to have to be mentioned because of my career. But man, that lesson was everything to me. And I have it in my book when he gives them, because the book is inspired. It's a science fiction story and everything based on me, my life, Belgrade. So I put that scene where he is holding the big and small ball and giving me when I'm a child. So there is a lot of elements like that.
Wow, that's actually like such an awesome story as well. And please, by the way, don't hold yourself back. If the stories are longer, please, it's fine. Like, I mean, I personally want to hear it.
I'm trying to cut them.
All right, however you're comfortable. And the thing is, like, yeah, that's actually the way I think I could summarize, everything that I've talked about in the past, like, couple of minutes, is that if you find something and you can do it, knowing that you might never earn a single penny out of it, and it's gonna take some effort and time out of your time, and you don't care, and because it's just a joyful, fulfilling process, that's, I think, one of the things you should actually, that's your passion, man. That's one of your passions, whoever is listening. Like, you should go follow that, follow that itch. Like, for example, podcasting for me, honestly, is one of those things. Like I haven't made a single money out of it, and I don't care if I do. But for example, the idea of, like, for example, interviewing 1,000 artists, and I said this before, is kind of like, kind of interesting to me, And not just aside from that, I love hearing people's stories, and just talk with people to see, what their journey is. And yeah, this is actually, the podcast is one of the things that no matter, what happens, I'll find a way to do it. Like, for example, a couple of days ago, no, sorry, not days ago. Sorry, not days ago. Months ago, my laptop suddenly gave me the blue screen of death. Basically, suddenly, my hard drive got corrupted, and I actually had to change it because it was a cheap Chinese one. And yeah, by the way, just a tip, please invest in your hardware. It's never a bad idea. And here's the thing. I had a podcast actually already up with Adrian Bush, actually. Oh, God, I remember. And what happened was I called one of my friends, and I said, hey, can I use a laptop and come to your home to record a podcast? And he was a chess instructor, by the way, so he's day was booked, and the only time I could go and record it was like 7 a.m. my time, which was kind of funny enough. It kind of matched with the guest this time because he was in California. It was 9-10 p.m. for him. And I remember I put this, microphone, this tripod for the lighting setup and everything in my bag, and I had to walk like an hour to his house. And after that, his laptop was so broken down, like it had a huge black hole in the middle of his screen. He never fixed it, and I did record with that, and I was happy. I didn't care. Like I did all that. I didn't make a single money out of it, and it was like one step towards like that bigger goal.
Well,
And
absolutely.
yeah, exactly. And anything that comes with that sort of attitude, I think anyone should just follow it. And for me,
You
art is
know,
also one of those things as well.
yeah, artists make one mistake. I've been spending a lot of time in recent years with them, and I've been spending with myself a lot of time analyzing what sucks with me. So the biggest mistake, except not learning economy, marketing, and stuff like that, is that most of them they do what is easy, and everybody will now jump and say, no, 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 I work hard. They do what is easy, what's natural to them. Somebody can paint good, somebody can do line work good, somebody can do values good, somebody can do 3D good, and they mostly stick to that. They don't go around because art is made out of multiple circles until you get a great art. My lines sucked, for example, for a very long time. My line work sucked. And I spent 2 years improving it. Just line work every day, 3 hours, beside the work and everything. And now I have some of the highest quality of my work are lines, how they go together and stuff like that. But was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. You have to put in the this and this into that, which means you have to think about it when you do it. Because when something naturally comes to you, you don't think very much about it. For example, very naturally comes to me big shapes blockouts. I don't even have to think about them. They always look good. But that's just part of the art. But then surface lines and stuff like that were hard. I worked on that. And that's one of the most second biggest mistake that artists make is that they don't push, they don't analyze what they lack and what they suck at. And they are afraid to do it because sucking is not easy. Sucking is not easy. And when somebody tells you suck, it's not easy, man. So it's the second point that I think that can make a great artist is to do what is hard and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just such an interesting theme that you brought up because I think the word for it in English is complacency or being complacent.
I didn't know that word. Okay.
Now, it means when you're comfortable with the quality or something that you have, so you don't really try anymore to improve. That's kind of the meaning of it.
Yeah.
And you see that with a lot of artists, actually. I mean, just people in general. It's not really set to art. And here's the thing. Here's a trap, actually. For example, I'm an artist who loves to, get to that cool job and money and everything, and I get that, and now I'm not hungry anymore. And then my quality kind of stagnates. I make the same stuff over and over again, and it's in everything. Like you see those fighters, like in I don't know if you watch MMA or stuff like that. You
I
see
used to do boxing and MMA.
like boxing, MMA doesn't matter. Like you see those fighters that, like for example, they train hard, they're hungry, they're ferocious, they get to the top, they become champion, then they become soft.
Because when you get everything, that's what we are talking about. When you get everything, that's where the ball is big. That's where the ball is big. Now you need to manipulate that ball, and that's fucking hard, man. It's fucking hard. All of a sudden you're not sitting anymore on a wooden chair that breaks your back and having a screen like this, but you have iron chair from Herman Miller, and you have big screens around you, and you're like, damn, I have this, and all of a sudden you're like, I made it. Well, the hunger needs to persist then, but it's hard balancing that ball. It's hard balancing that ball. I just always remember where I come from. I just remember from how hard times I come from and what I had to do and how much I had to work. And actually, it's about goals. What I wanna do. It's about the goals mostly. I wanna make something really new, and no matter how hard it is and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And all right, let's go to this different subject that I think a lot of people will find interesting. I mean, I went through, of course, which I do for you because, your works. And I actually came up with an interesting topic that I wanted to ask you is, you've been working on, on Maya and, and ZBrush and all this other, famous as standard, 3D programs. But recently, I think you've kind of, humorously, like in your captions, you said like humorously, but you started using Blender then because you see this, blend some people who get really attached to softwares and they're like, all right, I'm just going to use this for everything, and that for everything, I think you kind of poked fun at that. But what I wanted to ask you is, how has your experience been working with Blender in your designs and everything? Like, I mean, it's of course no doubtly it's a great tool, but do you think it could potentially be like a big has would it have like a big future like ZBrush or Maya in major studios, or just your whole thoughts on the whole experience?
Listen, first of all, I'm very known for humor and for sharp tongue. That's what I'm known. I'm not a typical artist. I'm not afraid to tell the stuff. And Blender community is insane. There are of course normal people, but majority of them are insane. I would post something and they would get pissed because I'm rendering key shots and not cycles and stuff like that. For me, that's very humorous because there is huge humor in it, because it's like little children when you take their toy away. My toy, why are you not giving it back? And you can see that in community a lot. And it's same. I also compare it when you have a partner that sucks and he or she sucks, but you're doing everything to tell to everybody that they're the best. Like my wife runs 10 kilometers a day, even though she doesn't run, but never mind. You know what I'm trying to say. And I always love that kind of paradoxes in life and to make fun of them, because they're fucking funny. Like you have little children around you. So that's the part of the Blender community that for me is super funny, and I like to make fun of it. You ask me, can Blender have a huge future? Blender already has a huge future, and it's gonna get better and better. Blender is the most amazing tool I used. I love also ZBrush, Fusion 360 for different stuff, but man, Blender is top notch for what I do. And it was third point. We are going through points. I like how we have the connection, so everything is aligning. Third points why artists don't improve is because they get overly attached to something. Same as I said, you have a partner that sucks, but you're doing everything to present to the environment that they are the best partner in the world. It's same with software. If something doesn't work, change it, but it takes courage to do that kind of stuff in anything, in any sphere of life. Because for example, Maya, I used it because I had license paid and everything, and then I had to use it for 3 years, and I started with it, and it was something I thought it was the best because I didn't know any better. And then Maya was crashing all the time. It's a hard surface. I do the broken geometry. It was making a lot of problems, not a lot of tools. I know that many people will say there is a lot of tools now, guys. This is 2017, and then I switched to Blender. Man, the Blender, I swear, the geometry moved so easily. So many tools. I started designing in seconds what I could do in the hours in Maya and stuff like that. It was a no-brainer. And I need to say thank you to Jerry Perkins. Jerry Perkins is the guy that invented box cutter hard ops. I strongly advise everybody to buy it, because not because it's Jerry's, but because it's freaking dope. It makes literally nerve software out of Blender. It's incredible. So Blender already has a huge future. It's already there. It's just a matter of, I will literally say months. When it enters the big studios, it already entered the big studios, but it's amazing tool. Of course, it has its setbacks. We are coming to the fourth point why artists don't develop it and designers is because they are non-realistic. Like Blender people, everything is the best in Blender. Everything is, whatever you say, they will try to tell you that you're wrong in any way. They would make a. It's super funny, man. I posted something about Blender that it doesn't heavy geometry. It takes too long to upload in it import. It takes a lot of time to spin it. It lags and stuff like that. So that's the part that I don't like about Blender. And then the guy says, well, so does Sketchbook. And I'm like, they both suck then. Let's quit it. Like, they both suck in that case, in that segment. They need to improve. So that's the thing that I don't like about Blender. I'm sure they will improve it because what I like about Blender, they really take the comments and critics and implement them in the software, which is very good. And Blender is definitely not the future, it's present. For me, it's the present, and that's it.
Well, those are some really interesting points, and Yeah, here's the thing that I kind of it's super weird, and I think it's type of part of human nature to be tribalistic in some sense. I mean, it's kind. I think it's in our DNA. Like you see, it not just with softwares, you see it like even like at the time when I was like in college, trying to university actually studying computer science and online forums, you would see a lot of even like this sort of tribalistic behavior over freaking programming IDEs.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing. Like you could literally code in Notepad on Windows. Like I mean, it's not about what fancy IDE you use. Like as yeah, it's like a pretty basic thing, and I
It's
don't know, it's
so funny,
weird.
man. It's so funny, man, because people go from one side to other side, and they are never in the middle. Life is to be in the center, but they always swing from one side. They can be part of the tribe. Blender is the best, and then they see that something sucks about the tribe. They don't like something there, and then all of a sudden they become solo independent. They are like, they are literally swinging from here to here like this. And I will never forget when a guy told me on a conference, he comes and he says, Darko, you are a Sigma male. And I'm like, what the hell is a Sigma male? I have no idea. I heard about Alpha male, but Sigma male is somebody who works solo and stuff like that. And I tell him, man, first of all, I don't know where you heard Sigma male from. But second of all, I am not a Sigma male, definitely, and then I started to analyze. I need to know everything, man. So I started to analyze. And then I saw that it's a new trend that you have to be a Sigma male to be cool.
No, that's
And
actually sorry to interrupt you, but the thing is, it's a meme. Actually, they don't say it seriously. Like, there's this meme of like,
there are YouTube videos, man. You check them out. How to be
I
a Sigma
know.
male stuff. Now you have chads and stuff like that. But Sigma
Yeah.
was into, and now they are making fun of the Sigma males because eventually it caught up. Thanks God that it caught up. That people are like, this is a fucking bullshit. It's just the marketing of the guys that invented alpha male. So now they needed something new because everything has been eaten already too much. Now we need a Sigma and Omega male, and now there are memes about it, which is super funny but super realistic. And exactly that's what is art all about. You need to be realistic. If something sucks, you need to say it sucks, because if you don't, man, boxing and art are the most truthful professions in the world. When you enter a ring with a boxer, if you're slower than him, if you have a weaker punch, if he's better, he will kick your ass, or she, and it will break your face, your bones, and like that. There is no lies. You can say everything that you want outside of the ring and say that you're the best, that you run 10 kilometers a day. If you don't do it when you enter a ring, you're done. It's the most trustful profession. Same with art, man. If you're not practicing lines, if you're not practicing proportions, if you're not practicing materials, when you make the art, everything will be visible. So they're very trustful professions, that what you see is what you get. Simple as that.
Yep, pretty much. And well, let's move into another subject, and which is, of course, this is something interesting that I've been really waiting to ask you, which is kind of what I've been kind of itching to know as well, which is how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a project personally? Like, what does the structure of your pipeline usually look like when you want to about your whole design process?
I have a couple of processes, but mostly let's take a longer one where I can explain everything, so where everything blends in. I'm a huge about references. I'm strong believer in them, and I'm very sad that I see artists that don't gather them and don't analyze them. So when I get a brief from my client, I always go download a lot of images, 500, 600, something like that. I put them in the groups. It takes me a couple of hours. And then I start to analyze everything, what we can do here, what we can do, and I write a lot. I use a lot of paper, and I write a lot even today. And because when you are drawing and stuff like that on a paper, and you are not thinking too much, the brain and connection of the arm are really good, and you explore a lot. So I'm not afraid to make mistakes there. And then when I have a clearer picture in my mind, mostly now I make blockouts in 3D, because blockout in 3D gives me, it can be Blender, ZBrush, Fusion 360, doesn't matter, but mostly it's Blender and ZBrush for the blockouts. Three software that I use now is ZBrush, Fusion 360, Blender. Those are three softwares that I use. And I make a blockout, and I get the feeling of proportions and that mechanisms are working. If there are some mechanisms that open stuff like that, because again, in 2D you can lie, in 3D you can't lie, because if it's not working, it's not working. It will cut and stuff like that. And when I have basic proportions, the next step for me is drawing in 2D over it. Because when I draw in 3D, or I develop it a little bit more in 3D and then come back to 2D, but the eye gets used to 3D if you do it too long. And in 2D, you see shapes a little bit better. And they are more coherent, much beautiful because the image is still. Then I translate it again through 3D, back and forth a couple of times. And then solely 3D, I push it till the end and I render it out with materials and everything. So, of course, there is all the time interaction with the client. And this is the fifth thing, is that the art that you are doing design for a client, you are doing it for a client, not for yourself. And there is no possessiveness when you do that. Client is the god there. He is the god. You can tell him that you don't like something, that you can push it in different direction, but as long as he agrees, because he is a client at the end of the day. And many artists make mistake where they want to push their ideas on the client, even though client never asked them that. And I will give you one simple trick how to decipher immediately if the client is good or bad. I learned that in 2017. When you're giving them ideas, I always give them 3 ideas initial design. Depends on how much time I have, but let's say one day. I always give them 3 ideas which are in the range of normality, what they asked for. One is super outside of that normality, and one is lower than that normality, because it gives them broad spectrum to choose from. And what I mean by out of normality. So, for example, I had to design a honeycomb bottle. And I designed it, and then I created 6 versions of it, which were normal because it went faster and I had 2 days. And I made one version where I made a bee, literally sculpture that gets outside of the glass. That was completely out of the spectrum they asked for. So it gets out of glass. And the client immediately showed that it was a bad client. Why? Because he didn't understand the process of design. And when he was supposed to pay me the money, you saw by his reactions, like, what is this? The bee, and I never asked for that. And what he didn't understand is that he has 10 ideas, man. He has the idea, he can choose. But then every time there was a payment, he didn't want to pay by saying that I made a bee from the glass. So he uses that against you, you know. Those are bad clients, man. Those are bad, short-minded people that don't have ideas where they can push. We eventually got a really good design. He didn't pay me half of the money. His comment was that I made a bee in the glass, even though it was a first pass. So if the client is short-minded and not open in the beginning of the process, even though he's getting good ideas and he gets one idea that's outside of the range, that immediately know that the job's going to be chaos. Immediately, you know, the job is going to be chaos.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's so weird when you give it. I mean, that's such a no-brainer when you give a client, like, multiple versions to choose, and they like one of them, they should pay full. Like, and that's
immediately, when you see that kind of behavior, you immediately know that the client is bad, because he's either seeing an opportunity to lie to you, because people can be very mischievous in this world, or he doesn't understand that he has a potential to develop something new. We are not talking about the bee from the glass. Nobody's going to take that, but it can give us idea for the future. But you have 6 of them which are normal. So that's the trick, where you immediately know with what kind of client you're dealing. Immediately.
Oh, yeah. Those people. Yeah, I think your first option was more accurate, that there are a lot of, mischievous people who just want to, use every chance to get some, I guess, monetary gain out of everyone they see. And
so you need to get a lawyer, because now I have a lawyer. And
oh, nice.
I have a lawyer now, and he's not cheap, but trust me, when the lawyer calls them, everything changes. I have strong contracts, and they can't trick you anymore. I work with the high-end companies now. I work mostly with high-end companies. You'll never trick them. I didn't have experience bad with them, because they have art director, everything. They know what they're doing. But small clients, they will try to trick you. There is no question about it. There is always one a year I call it like that. There has to be one a year, and those are the clients that are not eager to sign the contract. Immediately when you don't want to sign the contract, you know that something is going on. And in my contract, there is everything outlined. I can't lie to them. They can't lie to me because there is a time schedule. We go by it. I'm never going. That's one more thing about artists. You need to be professional. When you say you will deliver something, you have to. When you promise something, you have to do it. When you make a schedule, it has to be at that time, no matter if you're not sleeping that night. Many artists don't do that. I do it like that because that's the only way for me to work professionally. Because art is profession. It's not a dumpster that you throw in stuff, and you need to treat it like a professional work.
Yeah, definitely. And all right, there's a couple of stuff I also wanted to talk about and discuss about some of your previous projects that you've worked on. Let's and of course during our podcast, in, like, I think earlier on in the podcast you mentioned some of them, which is you had collaborated and worked with Sony, and Matrix.
Yeah.
You worked on Matrix with Coldplay, like Star Trek. Like, just tell us the whole stories, because
How it happened.
how it happened, and not just that, the whole experience working with them, working on those projects, and how did you feel? Were you the fan of those franchises or stuff like that? And just the
Yeah.
whole story, man.
Of Matrix, I'm a huge fan. It's one of the movies why I got into the business. In '99, I saw it on a video VHS cassette. I remember it like yesterday. So it was a dream come true. Well, as my name grew, the better clients came. That's simple as that. Also, I made a lot of connections on festivals and like that. And my work speaks for itself. And I always say to artists, your work has to speak for yourself. And for Matrix, I was invited by Double Negative, Ravi. I truly loved working on all of those projects. And for Coldplay, now I'm working with Sony. I'm currently with them. I will be for some time. We are working together. I have to say thank you to Stuart that invited me to work on it. We worked previously on something 4 years ago, and then he invited me to work on this. So, man, I was a huge fan of those things. Coldplay, I'm a huge fan of Coldplay. When I saw my design in a Coldplay video, it was like, wow. But you know what is funny? I always analyze it from the psychological side of the things. With Matrix, guys were super impressed when I did it. Mostly guys sent me messages. With Coldplay, women love when they hear Coldplay. They connect with it immediately, like oh my god, you work on Coldplay video and stuff like that. And it's such a psychological moment where you are like, of course, there are women that care about Matrix and stuff like that. But this is so interesting how much women are connected more to the brand like Coldplay and music than guys. It's such a psychological moment for me to see that kind of differences, because we are the same at the end of the day, but we are unique creatures. And it's such interesting way when you see how different people think different genders, different races, different nationalities. I always love to see that because, for example, one more of the stories that I'm going to mention here, we designed a car when I was in Italy, and Chinese company was, and Chinese CEOs, they would come and they would say, no, we were designing day and night and we didn't know what was wrong. And then eventually they came and they say no. So our director, he didn't ask because he didn't understand what's going on. He thought that the whole car was wrong. We were redesigning it like from the scratch all the time. To cut the story short, they didn't like it because it had triangles in the rear headlights, and it's a bad fortune in China. And the CEOs were very traditional. They like circles, but they never told us. And it's such interesting when you see how different we are, because I would put triangles everywhere. Trust me, I love triangles. So jobs came like that. As my name was developing, the jobs would start coming. It took quite a while. And the work was speaking for itself. And when I got them, I took the chance and I worked like a maniac to achieve good stuff. I truly loved working with all of them. I will honestly tell you, it's much easier working with a big company than a small client. It's much easier.
Yeah, because they're professional, of course, and those reputable companies know basically everything. They don't make mistakes that much, I guess. But yeah, when you are with an unprofessional, and by the way, we're not saying, by the way, to anyone who's listening, that if you're a small company, you're forced or no. I mean, the chances of you coming up with unprofessional people in the smaller companies is, mathematically much higher, and that's why you get more, those bizarre interactions more
They
there.
have smaller budgets mostly, and they get afraid very fast when something is not
Oh
moving the
yeah.
way they would like, and they don't understand that the design is process. And they not all of them, of course. If it was all of them, there wouldn't be small companies. These are mostly companies that fail and die very fast. But it's much easier to work with a bigger company, I will tell you that, than a small one.
All right. And by the way, which video of Coldplay did you work with specifically? Do you remember the name of the new?
Higher power, the latest video.
Oh,
There are two dogs that appear in the video. They appear 3 seconds, but but it was enough.
still.
It was enough. They appeared 3 seconds, but it was enough, man. They are also on posters for that video, standing there like.
Oh, nice.
I tagged them on the post, but they never tagged me back. But never mind. It will happen. It will happen eventually. I will go in the front row when they come here to Belgrade and throw myself on the stage. I worked on your dogs.
Yeah. And here's a really interesting thing I want to actually talk with you. Your thoughts on Midjourney on AI. And have you tried implementing them in your process as well?
No, I haven't. I learned the lesson about AI is long time ago. I learned about it. I'm not against it. I'm strongly not against it. I'm always. I write from time to time on my social media and Facebook. Hey guys, long time no hear. What are we hating about today? Because art communities are known for hating everything and anything. And I make it in a humoristic way, but it's very true. It's very true because now it's the main thing, AI, and everybody is against it or for it. And I think that the person needs to be very open for any kind of medium. I haven't used it because I didn't have any time. I see definitely potential in it, but I see a downfall in it, which is great for me. The downfall, I will tell you what. The new generations are all using now AI. And they're all getting the same images, same color, same shapes, same everything. Developing your style takes years. And drawing by yourself, not by AI. And liberating your brain to accept the new information and to find something new. If you're using AI as a new generation artist, you will have the same quality because you won't analyze anything. You will be drawing over it, which means that new generations, there won't be a new methods of drawing. There won't be new, and I invested quite a bit in my style, like many other artists. So that's a great thing. The second thing for artists that are already established, it's really good. It's really good because it makes new ideas and stuff like that. But for me, those paintings, when I see them, it's funny because I analyze the schizophrenia and bipolar people when they are drawing. If you ever check that, also Alzheimer and stuff like that. AI is creating similar images to them. High contrast, black color a lot, splashed, no control of the hand. It's so interesting to see that it creates that kind of art. I learned a lesson about machines and art in car design. I found out that clay modelers will never be replaced, even though we have machines that perfectly mold cars and stuff like that. But clay modelers are still one of the most paid artists in car design. Why? Because there is one thing that the machine will never have. Maybe it will have, but not in my lifetime, I'm sure about it. And that's a soul. That's a heart and soul. When a machine creates it, the car, it looks artificial. When a clay modeler creates it, he puts his heart into that surface. It literally translates his heart. I know this is some spiritual stuff, but it's really true if you see it. And when he puts that, you feel the surface becoming alive. And they will never be changed because the machine doesn't have soul. Maybe one day we connect the soul with the machine. I don't know where it will happen. But the soul is what creates art amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I actually had this exact conversation with Emily Arena, in a couple of episodes
She's
ago.
Great. She's great. Say hello to her. She's amazing.
Of course.
We met in person. She is amazing.
Yeah, I had a lovely time with her as well. And we also had the same discussion. And actually, one of the things that we both kind of came upon the decision is the fact that I guess machines till now can't really simulate the same feeling that the soul, and by soul, what we don't mean in by the way, to anyone who's listening, we don't necessarily mean it in an esoteric, like a spiritual way. We say it because like if you take out the soul, we're nothing but just machine a machine made out of meat and bones. But when you have souls, you have a character, you have a passion. Your passions and all the stuff like that is based on your character, who you are, inside. And that literally could translate into anything. It could be your design, it could be your works, it could be just anything. And I think that's a certain quality that I could like. Here's the thing. Let me tell you another thing that it might sound dystopian, maybe it is. But I think I saw an article the other day about like how minimalism is taking over and everything. Basically the title was The Death of Detail, and it showed a bunch of like elements in like the city designs and stuff like that. Everything is turning minimal, and I guess a huge part of it is because of the huge exponential growth of population. That, of course, as like a good example of that is of course Soviet architecture. It's just made to do this purpose. Just get people inside their homes, and stuff like that. And it's kind of the death of detail. But of course, I'm kind of getting off track, sorry. But yeah, about AI actually, like, yes, it's a really great tool to assist people in, find their designs. Like, actually, I don't know if you know him. Do you know Teal Freytag?
Who?
Teal Freytag. He's a vehicle
Not
and
sure.
a concept artist in the game dev. Like, by the way, he recently made a post using AI. He made the design using AI and it popped off everywhere on ArtStation, Instagram, Twitter. I'll
Yeah,
send it
we
to you later
follow
if you
each
want.
other. I know. He does. Yeah. He has a very cool style. We follow each other. I didn't know it by the name. The German guy.
Yeah. Yeah, actually,
What
he's
did
going to
he
be on
do?
the podcast in a couple of days later, by the way.
Nice. We don't know each other personally, but I love these sketches of his. They are so much soul to them.
Yeah, and he used AI as a tool. Like, if you see the Shark spaceship one, that's the 31K likes. That's the one that
Yeah.
popped off. And he used AI generated one. And listen, I actually signed up for Meet Journey and I got accepted to it, and I was hooked. And of course, I didn't know it was limited, so I also searched for a bunch of stupid shit because I was bored. But the designs that I actually put time to actually write the prompts for, I actually got some seriously good inspirations for designs. Like, of course, you're not going to copy paste the design. That's kind of dumb. But for inspirations and like the general shape and composition, it's kind of sometimes could be helpful when you're in deep creative block, I guess, in that sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you think for anyone who thinks like you can use AI to, I don't know, just overpaint it and just and that's not gonna work in the end. You could try, but you won't reach the same level of quality as someone who has an understanding of basics of art and just using them properly.
There is one more trick about becoming a great artist, and that's not following social, political, and social and political things that happen on Facebook and social media, because artists are hungry for attention. People are mostly hungry, but especially artists, and they jump on something even though they don't care about it, and they jump just to get likes. For example, we had recently COVID, then we had war in Ukraine, and you would see artists jumping on war in Ukraine, painting images for a war in Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Then using that momentum, but they get lost in that because they don't know the cause of the war, they don't know what's happening, and in 2 weeks later they jump on AI, and in 2 weeks later they jump on this. Artist has to have a personality and to know where he is heading, because a man or a woman that knows where they are moving, nothing can stop them. And I truly believe in that. We have a saying, one man, this is in 1735, something like that. One man can do what 1,000 can't, that don't know what they are doing. And you lose yourself in that, because likes are fun, man. Always, they're always fun. I used to get 15,000 of them on Instagram. Your ego becomes, but I never steered away from what I was doing. That was Inside 44 and hard surface for me. And I see artists that get likes for example, writing a post about AI, and they say that AI sucks or AI is great. And then all of a sudden they start posting more stuff like that and more, and they're getting in a rabbit hole, down and down, and they forget what their art is about.
Yeah, definitely. Like, like here's the thing. I understand if you're like an environment artist or especially character artist, you see there's a new trend, and for example, you want to draw Stranger Things characters in your art. I mean, that to an extent, I think it's fine. But yeah, I think, and it's kind of undeniable. You see these artists that try to jump on any trend just for the sake of like likes and just that dopamine rush, I guess. And yeah, I absolutely abhor. Like, I'm one of the things that I find it super disgusting. But yeah, in the end of the day, you see also those artists who really like. For example, let me give you a good example. I think I've mentioned her a couple of times. She's an Iranian artist. Her username is Mad Maraka. She's one of the most famous NFT artists that came up in like 2021 and stuff like that at
Oh,
the
nice.
early days of 2021. Like, here's the thing. I'm not gonna go too much deep into NFTs, and I don't get sidetracked, but I'm just gonna say this: when NFTs started to actually pop off a lot in early 2021, like actually a lot of legit good artists joined the movement and stuff like that, and a lot of artists that were unknown, their works became known because of the NFT movement, and a lot of them are actually really good artists, like not those ones who make like a fucking put a weed on a monkey's mouth and call it an NFT. No, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about that actual artists who put love in their style. And she, if you when she popped up, of course, I went through to, because of course I wanted to have her on the podcast, of course, yeah, duh. But I checked her, her previous stuff, and here's the thing. By the way, I love her stuff, the works, and I follow her stuff all the time. She's been doing voxel art. She's been specifically specializes in voxel art, and that's what her NFTs are consist of. And she's been doing it for 6 years. She was doing it before even she knew what an NFT was. She just saw NFTs as like same as prints. You sell prints of your works to make money. She was like, oh, well, another way to make money. That most artists did, Like some
Because
of them.
dots always connect. Because dots always connect. Your soul knows what it's looking for. They always connect eventually. It's just what you ask from the universe. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen in a second. It happens in a years. Listen, man. Sorry for interrupting you, but that's very true. It's not that she sensed it. It's what she asked for. What we ask is what we get. When I was a kid, I developed diabetes type 1 after bombing of Belgrade, and I needed a hero, and I always wanted to make a hero based on a diabetes and stuff like that, because I needed a hero as a kid. I was 13 years old. I'm in 30s now. And my whole life took me to that moment. Took years. But eventually I got it. And now I have a book that has diabetes type 1 hero inspired by diabetes in a science fiction story in Bersia, that is Serbia, and so on. So what am I trying to tell you? Sorry for interrupting, but what am I trying to tell you is that what you ask is what you get. And it takes time. And many people quit before it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So good for her. Good for her.
Yeah, definitely. And just want to also say that she just was consistent on herself, what she loved, and she got the result.
Yeah. You need to precisely say what you want to do. That's one of the life tricks. You need to know what you want, because this is how life works. Till 18, mostly your parents tell you what to do. No matter how smart you are, or how educated you are, or how wise you are as a child, or flamboyant, I don't know. But they choose for you. And how do you enroll in the university? Well, you choose a couple of years or months before that, and you say, I want to do this. And then you go there. It's same with life. I want a fucking Porsche. You will eventually get a Porsche. Depends how you will get it. But you first of all need to clean all the garbage inside of you to get there. So it's always you. I'm trying to say that that's the point of the story. It's always you. How much you invest is how much you get. Always you, no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, there's that also brings another point that although you might get motivated and determined to start on your journey and get your life back together and do all this stuff, but one of the traps that most people fall into is they disregard everything else in their life just to get there. But one thing that you should never disregard is your health. I mean, it sounds simple, but I've personally suffered from that a lot, both physically and mentally, when trying to just get to things that I want. And I think you also have some stories, to tell about that as well. But honestly,
couple of burnouts.
Yeah.
But I work for 15 hours a day. I also had health issues in 2015. I have diabetes type 1. But you learn. you eventually learn. You all need to go through that. I swear everybody
Yeah.
needs to go through that because it's part of life, and then you learn. As long as you learn from it, it gets better, both mental, physical, emotional, energetic, the way you want to say it. Man, I developed in last 4 years, completely redeveloped my life. I always say it healthy because of diabetes. uh, I think it's one of the tricks why I look so young, because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. What kind of artist am I? I don't know. I don't have tattoos also, but I don't do anything of that. And I think it's one of the tricks why I look so young, because I have a schedule how I do everything. But in recent years, I added meditation, spiritual things, yoga. Thanks God I never got lost in it. For a while I did, but eventually I always came back to my mathematical side. And I think that artists need to do sports, especially that kind of meditation, especially, but with someone, because everybody's speaking about it and doing it alone. Man, that can be very messy. That can be very messy. So not a single profession in the world translates more soul onto something. And when you're losing parts of soul, you need to regain them. With normal stuff, you can't, especially with drugs and alcohol. It's not without the reason that artists go that routes in the past, today, and stuff. It's because they try to heal that soul. But there are other ways. I tell you, there are other ways to do that and to fix that. Sport is a huge thing for me. I've been in love with sports since I was a kid. Serbians are just like that. We love sports, anything competitive especially. And I still do 4 days a week, 5 days a week sports. But the main thing is to have a schedule, because artists are most known for not having a schedules. They live from day to day. If you have a schedule, the life will be easier. Life will be much easier, and it will, at the end of the day, you will always know that you did something. Without the schedule, you don't know what you did.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's such a good point. That's such a good point, actually. And what was I gonna ask? There was something. I swear that I have a notepad in front of me, and that's the crazy thing.
When
And I
you were
usually,
young, if something fell on my mind. Sorry
sure,
for
sure.
interrupting. I'm not known to interrupt people, but today I'm
No
inspired,
worries, no
obviously.
worries.
When you are young artists and the people in general, many artists come to me, I don't know what to do. And they're in their 20s, 21, 22, 23. Man, when you're 20, if you have money to buy food and stuff like that from your parents or like this, man, when will you get lost if not then? When will you get lost? When you have 30s or family, there you don't have time to get lost then. So be lost in your 20s, explore things, be curious about them, explore, I don't know, drives you. Whatever drives you, explore it, because that's the only time you will be able to explore it. Later it gets easier, harder and harder to do that. So yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually also a really good point as well. And I forgot what I was going to say, but there's something else I need to mention, which is, by the way, to anyone who's been following this podcast, thank you so much. Today, I think, is going to be the last episode. This microphone is going to accompany us. I ordered a new one. Say bye to this microphone, because to the audio listeners, we're saying our goodbye to this microphone that's been the GTX Trust microphone, not sponsored. That's been accompanying us. Yes, sorry, the sound quality has not been the best for the first 175 episodes, but if you're checking back from the future, yeah, I hope you're enjoying the nice audio quality then. But yeah, and yeah, I quickly wanted to mention that as well. And all right, let's go to the juicy stuff of the podcast. One of the main reasons that I've been kind of excited to talk to you about, which is, of course, we've teased it for like an hour and like 19 minutes for now, which is your personal IP that you've been working on for years, which is Inside 44.
Yeah.
And all right, so I think the best thing for me to ask is just tell us everything as much as you want.
Okay, so 7 years ago, when I was without work or anything, I had huge passion for art. 8 years actually now. Yeah, it's eight. I wanted to show how good I am, because everybody was telling me that I'm not good. Even though it was a mind fuck. That's the real world, because you're really good at designing, but your papers are telling you are not, and artists are telling you that you should do different character art. Never mind. I wanted to start, and it starts with hard surface. And as I said, when I developed type 1 diabetes, 99, 2000 actually, after the bombing, I wanted to create a hero with diabetes, and I was at the lowest point of my life, returned to leave my parents sick, recovering and everything, and I started slowly to develop science fiction story based on my Belgrade, my town from Serbia, my life, and on experiences and my friends. And it started as a simple thing, and